What is up, you guys? My name is Elias and I love movies. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different, something that I've never actually done before. I know for the past week a lot of people have been making videos in memory of Wes Craven, and it does seem a little cliche to do one, but I honestly can't help it. I thought I would take this time to explain to you guys what it is that Wes Craven meant to me and how he made a difference in my life. 1, 2, 3.
Guerra Movie House!
So first of all, I will go ahead and admit that I'm not the biggest horror fan. I don't collect a lot of horror movies. I don't know everything about horror movies. Needless to say, horror isn't even my favorite movie genre. Whenever it comes to this specific person, whenever it comes to Wes Craven, there's a lot that I admire and there's a lot that I looked up to. I've said in the past that growing up, I grew up in a very strict religious home where we weren't allowed to do a lot of things. There was a lot of movies that I wasn't allowed to watch. Horror, of course, would be an obvious one. There was a lot of music that I wasn't allowed to listen to. There was a lot of things that we simply weren't allowed to do. But of course, whenever a child is told that they're not allowed to do something, they sort of want to do it even more. Right off the bat, everybody in my family knew that I loved television. I enjoyed movies and I enjoyed watching shows. So of course, my parents made sure that we always had movies to watch. Especially my dad, because my dad also loves movies. Of course, the most popular title in our home were Disney titles. But because my parents were very religious and very strict, there was a phase that our family went through where even Disney movies weren't that acceptable. Luckily, that phase faded very quickly and we were back to watching Disney movies. It wasn't until I got a little bit older, till around middle school, that I started to search for something more. My friends at school would make fun of me because I wasn't allowed to watch PG-13 movies. There were even some PG movies that I couldn't watch simply because my parents said so. Even when I was 12 and 13, there were certain movies that my parents just said no to. I never really got into horror till the summer before high school. Before then, I had always snuck into the living room and stayed up late trying to watch dramas or foreign films or just really old Alfred Hitchcock classics. But to watch an actual horror, a gory film, a disturbing film, I never really got into that. I sort of didn't really know they even existed. The summer before high school was when I finally got my hands on the very first Nightmare on Elm Street film. I didn't really know what the movie was about. I didn't even know who Wes Craven was. I didn't know who Robert Englund was. All I knew was the name, Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street. As embarrassing as it may be, I remember hiding it in my room. I remember hiding a lot of movies in my room because I felt like my dad was going to take it away. It was a VHS copy and I waited for everyone to go to sleep. And as soon as everyone went to bed and I waited for it to get extremely late, I snuck a TV into my room along with a VCR, decided to sit down and finally watch it. I am not ashamed to say that even at the age of like 14, the movie absolutely scared me to death. I can say for a fact that I blinked as little as possible. From beginning to the end, I was amazed and I couldn't believe what I was watching. And I think the possibility of my dad walking in at any moment while I was watching this horrific film maybe made the experience a little bit more scary, but it definitely scared me to death. And even though I was 14, I am not ashamed to say that the movie actually gave me nightmares. I was scared of Freddy. I remember laying down in bed after I put the TV back, after I put the VCR back, after hiding the movie. I remember laying in bed for about 10 minutes and then sitting up and touching my walls, just like Nancy did, to see if there was anything coming through. This movie just did something different. It gave me the type of fear that I enjoyed. Because even though I was scared and I couldn't stop thinking about it, I also couldn't stop smiling because I thought that as scary as the movie was, I loved it. My parents were so strict that my dad wouldn't let us use the computer because the internet was filled, and still is filled, with a lot of horrible things. And my hands were itching to get on the internet and find out and learn as much as I possibly could about this movie. I finally got my hands on the internet. I searched my ass off and just took in all of the information that I possibly could and found out who Wes Craven was. When I read that he grew up in a very strict religious home, that's when it hit me hard. I feel like I understood where he was coming from, because growing up, he wasn't allowed to do a lot of things. He wasn't allowed to watch a lot of things. He grew up watching Disney movies and other kids' movies and animated films. He wasn't allowed to go out with his friends. He wasn't allowed to hang out with certain people. He wasn't allowed to do a lot of things because of the religious beliefs. And that's something that I always connected with, because that's how I was raised. And to learn that he grew up to be a professor and then to become a filmmaker, not just any filmmaker, but the type of filmmaker that his mom would probably consider a sin, just opened up my eyes to the possibilities that anyone could have. After learning a lot more about him, I made it my goal to search and watch his other films. I'll be honest with you guys, some of his films are not that great, but when he made a great one, he made a great one. I will never forget finally getting all of the Nightmare on Elm Street films on VHS. I stayed up with my brothers and we watched every single one back to back. We literally stayed up all night watching every single one, and my God, was it an experience. And I know he wasn't technically involved in all of them, but the thought that he was the one that started it all blew me away. And of course, whenever he returned for New Nightmare and actually seeing him in the movie portraying himself and all of these characters being themselves, and him coming up with that concept, I thought was brilliant. Even though some of his films did scare me, I loved him so much that I went out of my way to search for more, because I wanted more of that fear. I know it sounds weird, but that's really what he did to me. That's how he affected my life. I feel like even though there's a lot of other horror films that I might love and enjoy and keep watching over and over, I will always respect Wes Craven and honor his memory, because for me personally, he is the one that introduced me to horror. Maybe I would have found another horror movie that would have done the same, but in my life it was definitely him, and it was definitely with Nightmare on Elm Street. And of course, after learning everything about his childhood and how he was raised, that just made me love the guy even more. He taught me that a real artist should always be themselves, no matter what a person tells you, no matter who decides to stop you. If you really have a passion and love for something, then you should do it, because that's what's gonna bring you real happiness. And I can honestly say that he is partly responsible for all of this behind me, and I will forever be grateful for that. That's it, you guys. Just wanted to share my story about who Wes Craven is to me and how he's affected my life. As always, thank you guys very much for watching. Like the video if you like, leave your comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you for watching Guerra Movie House. Like, comment, and subscribe for my videos. Peace out, homies.